Please rewind this cassette.
Sometimes I wish I could boldly go where no man's gone before. But I'll probably stay in Aurora.
There's not many movies that I would call perfect. I mean, I've seen great films. I've seen masterpieces. I've watched A24 movies. I think I know what I'm talking about. But what makes a perfect movie? And to be more specific, what makes a perfect comedy? All you ever hear your whole life is, well, comedy is subjective. What you find funny, somebody else might think is cringe. And then sometimes cringe things are funny.
Hey, Ricky, you're so fine, you blow my mind. Hey, Ricky!
There's a lot of nuance to this conversation, and in my opinion, what makes a great, or what I would call a perfect comedy, is likable characters, obviously it being funny, and good filmmaking, which is something that's often overlooked in the great comedies. A great example of this, I would say, is Mike Myers and Penelope Spheeris's Wayne's World, the 1992 classic, based off the hit Saturday Night Live sketch. To this day, it's still the highest-grossing film ever adapted from a sketch, and has remained a cult classic, despite it falling out a little bit with the younger generations because of all of its 90s pop culture references.
Ah, new print. Little. Yellow. Different.
Now, I've seen Wayne's World at least 50 to 60 times, and that's just the times I remember. I can't think of a time that this movie wasn't in my life. Apparently, my parents took me to the theater to see this movie when I was 2 years old. Obviously, I don't remember that, but I giggled throughout the whole thing, and other people were laughing at my giggling, so I contributed to the comedy of this film and its success. I think I should get royalties personally, but
It might happen. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
whatever. So what's so great about Wayne's World? And doesn't make it just a relic of its time? Quite a few things, actually. This is a movie with characters obsessed with pulp culture, but it's a movie about our own obsessions with pulp culture. The visuals of the film and the editing complement this commentary. In the 90s, everybody was obsessed with the idea of selling out.
Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
You couldn't sell out to corporations. You couldn't sell out to the man. You had to be alternative. You had to have integrity. You had to keep your artistic spirit. Be a rebel at heart. Always be a rocker. And that's who Wayne and Garth are. They have a public access show they do in their basement. They're basically YouTubers before YouTubers were a thing. And the construct of the film is rather clever. If you saw the sketches on SNL, Wayne's World always took place in the basement and sometimes would have fantasy sequences that left it, but predominantly it's a set and it's Wayne and Garth talking to the camera. Now, occasionally there'll be things like the extreme close-up, or they'll pull out a list and rank things, and all of these are really fun things. But what I give Mike Myers a lot of credit for, and he did this throughout his career because he did this again with Austin Powers, is the construct that he can build from something like that. How do you make a movie out of a sketch? Certainly the idea is too limited to expand into something. But it is called Wayne's World. It's not called Wayne's Basement. So then you start to think, what is Wayne's World? They brilliantly pull this off in the first part of the movie. We get Rob Lowe with Diane Court watching Wayne's World on TV. He's an executive at a company looking for a show that he can sell to a guy who owns an arcade chain for advertisement. And then he sees this show and he's like, oh, clearly these guys are brilliant, even though he sees that they're idiots that he can take advantage of. And then we cut into the actual show of Wayne's World. After they're done filming it, the character Wayne, played by Mike Myers, goes upstairs and starts talking to us right at the camera, like he's still in the universe of the show. And this right here just alone is, I can't get over it. It's so brilliant to just treat it that way. It's so simple. It goes, okay, what is the show? It's them talking to a camera. It's them being funny. Let's just move upstairs out of the basement into Wayne's house, and let's keep doing that. Let's break the fourth wall. Let's show you the world. Followed up by the epic and awesome Bohemian Rhapsody sequence that's the most famous and iconic thing about the movie. It made that song popular again. We immediately get this geography, this world building, all these supporting characters. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming and crazy. It's one of the greatest 20-minute openings I've ever seen to any movie. So much gets established here. You get the friendship dynamic. You meet Cassandra, Wayne's love interest. You get an energy of what these guys do, the iconography of everything, the way everything looks. It's some weird dystopia mixed with like MTV. I can't explain it. There's not many comedies, especially at the time, that look like this. There's even moments of whimsy where just random things happen, like Wayne and Garth playing hockey in the middle of the street. How do you think of stuff like that? That's what I love about it. It's like an Edgar Wright movie before Edgar Wright made movies. And the movie's constantly changing formats. There's so much random things and yet hyper-specific things happening, like the gestures that Wayne and Garth do, the catchphrases that they have.
This is a fully functional babe lair.
Hi, I'm in Delaware.
The way that Mike Myers delivers certain lines like, "Ah, gun." I don't know why, but they burn into your mind so well, and you just think about them sometimes. I laugh and just think about little moments from this movie, at least on a weekly basis. They use subtitles. They use different lighting techniques. There's a meta thing about it too, where they're always like acknowledging the fact they're on a set, or there's cameos for movies inside of this movie. The T-1000 shows up in this fucking film. Terminator 2 came out the year before this movie. Imagine you're in the theater in 1992 and a cop pulls Wayne over, and it's the T-1000 looking for John Connor. And with that too, they take a lot of the trademarks from the Wayne's World sketch and use them in the cinematic world. For instance, the extreme close-up. When he shows him the picture, we get an extreme close-up on Wayne screaming, looking right at the camera. And it's hilarious. It totally works. And I just love that Mike Myers thought about it that way. Like, what are the things that people like about this? And then how can we adapt this into a universe? Because that's really what this is. This is a universe movie. We're not just getting a comedy sketch. We're not just getting a bro movie. We're not just getting a film about guys selling their souls and selling their show to a big corporation and then finding their way back to their integrity and who they were. Even though clearly that's the theme of the movie, it's about Hollywood. So even that's meta because it's about Wayne's World becoming a movie, just like their public access show becoming a cable show, which opens up to some really funny moments where you're seeing a version of the show that's being produced where they're getting notes and they can't be who they want to be. And it's clearly like a fuck you for Mike Myers and people trying to give him notes and telling him what to do, because he's infamously kind of hard to work with and a bit of a control freak. But when you make stuff as good as this, maybe he has a right to be that way. Granted, there is the love guru, so I'm not sure if Mike still has it. Then you have surprises in this movie like Rob Lowe being so funny in it and setting up this whole career in the second half of it where he's in much more comedies like Tommy Boy or being on Parks and Recreation. Some people that are young might not know, but Rob Lowe was honestly a pretty serious actor in the 80s. He wasn't really known as a comedy guy, but he's just hilarious as a handsome corporate pig in this film. It's perfect casting. And then Dana Carvey, who had a very disappointing film career for the most part, gets to shine in this film as Garth. He almost steals the whole thing. And it makes me wonder sometimes if that's why Myers didn't want to continue to work with him in the future, even taking his Lorne Michaels impression to play Dr. Evil in Austin Powers. And I just love little things. I love the scene where Wayne and Garth are sitting on the hood of a car and just talking. This always feels improvised to me. And I believe a lot of it was. My favorite joke is when Garth asks Wayne if he thought Bugs Bunny was attractive when he would dress up as a girl bunny. And there's a laugh that Mike Myers has that's so genuine. You can tell that he wasn't expecting that question. But it's just little moments like that. They feel true. They feel authentic. All this money and everything, it can ruin a comedy sometimes. It can ruin truth. It can ruin the purity of it. But Wayne's World doesn't have any of that. The movie's fighting against that and even getting Penelope Spheeris. She made the very acclaimed documentaries Decline of Western Civilization, which covered the punk rock and heavy metal movement. So she was honestly perfectly suited to this because she had a punk and rebel spirit herself. So there's a lot of intelligent people working on this film commenting on the fact that they are making a Hollywood film, but in that they're trying to make something that's not that at the same time. And I think those juxtapositions are the keys to a lot of Wayne's World success. Another thing they take from the original sketches were these occasions where Wayne and Garth would go into fantasy sequences. The most famous one probably being when they meet Madonna in a black and white hotel room. And in this movie, they do that several times and it's always perfect. They open a door to a room that's a bunch of ninjas training for a mission. Garth has fantasies in his head about a woman that he's in love with and the version of himself that he wishes he could be. There's a sequence where they're going to see Alice Cooper, and then they randomly recreate the opening to Laverne and Shirley, like shot for shot. I don't know why this stuff is in there, but it works and it's funny. Because what I like about it is it's like you're seeing the world from Wayne and Garth's perspective. I don't think any of this stuff is really happening. I think they're just entering a world of delusion and wonder to escape reality, which begs the question, is this the real life, or is this just a fantasy? Even the ending of the movie, we get alternative endings where Wayne and Garth keep changing the outcome until they get one that they're satisfied with. They do a Scooby-Doo ending, they have a bad ending, and then we get the happy ending. So Wayne and Garth get to decide the version of the world they want to live in. They get to create their own reality. And this only really works in the cinematic language. This is such a cinematic film that plays with the form of movies, what we think about movies, what we think about our relationship with pulp culture and art. And even though it just seems like a shallow, fun movie, and it's got a lot of things from Bill and Ted, or even Spicoli's character from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's guys having intelligent conversations or quoting things from books, even though they're supposed to be sort of stoner party guys. I really do think that this film is coming from a place much deeper than that and much more thoughtful. I mean, how detailed is this screenplay? How much is going on in every frame of this movie? How complex is the cutting of this film? How complex is the structure, the pacing? There's so much going on, you don't have time to think about it. It's overwhelming. There's like a joke every few seconds, and every minute something new happens. You don't really get time to get bored. Sure, it kind of lulls a bit going into the third act, but how many comedies have like a perfect third act? Compared to most of them, Wayne's World is pretty good. And I just love everything. I love everything they did here. I love what the movie's about. I love how they execute it. And I just still to this day can't grasp how Mike Myers was able to take an idea so small and turn it into something so big that opened up the possibility for them to make like 6 of these movies. Sure, we got Wayne's World 2, which was rushed and overproduced, and it's not nearly as good as this movie, but I still think it's pretty funny and a pretty watchable cable movie. And I miss Wayne and Garth. Every time they show up in a commercial for DoorDash, or they appear in an MTV show, or show up on SNL 40, you just love these guys. The chemistry is undeniable. You want to hang out with them because they're good guys. And that's the thing that I think lingers more than anything, despite all the things I've talked about. Wayne and Garth are just good guys, and they're trying to do the right thing, and they get rewarded for that at the end. And to me, that's what I want. Also, Cassandra's just really, 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 really hot. And yeah, that helps too.